Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. If you are here today, it's because you saw the title of this video and you said to yourself, you know what, I am also a Degrassi fan and I've been looking for some more Degrassi content. Well, here I am giving you some more Degrassi content. I have a little script. I'm prepared for this video, okay? I wrote myself a script, so if you see me look off to the side, it's because I'm reading my script, because I wrote 9 pages of content, because I know that if I didn't write anything down, then it would either just be like a long stream of nonsense and nothing would ever make sense. So I wrote it down. So I will be referring to my script. I might go off script a little bit, but that's just a basic introduction to this video. My name's Ellie Sanji, and in January of this year, the year of 2022, I tasked myself to watch all 14 seasons of the Degrassi Next Generation. For context, I was born the year that the first season of Degrassi The Next Generation came out. I was not alive, so I could have not watched it, okay? I did watch some of the later seasons. I remember because when some of the storylines were happening, I remember there was like a light bulb went off in the back of my head or something, and I was like, I've seen these before. This is like a little bit familiar to me. I don't remember when I watched it, but I definitely remember watching some. I finished all 14 seasons of the Degrassi Next Generation, like back in maybe March. I finished it. I can't really remember. I'm a really good binge watcher, so it probably only took me like 2 to 3 months to finish it. I started Next Class on Netflix, and then I got bored, so I didn't finish Next Class. But it's okay. It's fine. It's not that important. It's not that important to this video right now, so it's okay. Since it's the revival coming to HBO in 2023, I thought that I would sit down and talk about every single season of Degrassi The Next Generation. So buckle up if you I don't know, if you want to enjoy this, buckle up. We'll be here and we'll have a great smashing old time. So this is the background portion of Degrassi. So now I'm going to be reading from my scripts because I can't remember all this. Thanks to the Degrassi fandom, there's a lot of information on season 1 that I could have researched on my own, but it's made more easily accessible, which is good because I'm lazy and I'm not doing the work. Shout out to everyone that updates and keeps up with all of the show's fandom wikis, because I'll go on every single one, just like going through every single thing for no reason. I'll go through every single character, every single episode. I'll be finding out things that I didn't even know. Thank y'all for that. Y'all keep this world running. So thank you. Season 1 of Degrassi Next Generation aired on October 14, 2001 with 15 episodes. Before Degrassi The Next Generation, there was Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High that put forward real teen actors dealing with real life situations. Now with TV shows centered around teens, we get adult actors playing them. Take example for Riverdale. We have Cole Sprouse. When he first started on the show, he was 25 years old playing like a 16-year-old character. That is something that is not relatable. Okay, I'm 20 years old for context, but when I started watching Riverdale, because it came out, what was it, like 2017? Let's do some math. 20 minus 5 is 15. I was 15 years old when I first started watching Riverdale. I stopped watching Riverdale because we all know what happened with that show. God knows I could not keep up with it after like season 2. But I was 15 years old, and watching Cole Sprouse, who's 26, play of 16-year-olds, like that's not representation for me. Like, who is that man? So Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High, and then what later continued with Degrassi The Next Generation, kind of like revitalized this teen drama show, but using actual teenagers. To be fair, it's obviously easier working with adults than teenagers because the child labor laws, you can work around that if they're an adult. But also, they're adults, and if they're like seasoned actors, then, you know, they have more experience. You don't have to like train them as hard, this, that, and the fourth. But Degrassi High and Degrassi Junior High said, fuck that, we're not going to do that, we're going to use real life teenagers. Which I think makes the show more believable, and I think it resonates with people more when it makes it, you know, when it's like that. Back to Degrassi The Next Generation, which aired 21 years ago. A lot of issues that I discuss on the show are still relevant today, and anyone could learn from it. And Degrassi is still talked about all the time. Whether or not it's always like the scene where Drake gets, you know, we're not gonna get into that, but maybe it's because I'm on Degrassi TikTok, since I'm always like consuming Degrassi content, but I'm getting a lot of Degrassi TikToks and they're always talking about the show. Does it on the 4th? even a silly plot that can be just like two girls arguing about their friendship or something can still have some like life lessons for you to learn if you're an adult. So yeah, getting into it, Degrassi The Next Generation season 1 is what it is for a TV show. It's a season 1. I'm gonna give you some context about me. I'm a film and television major at my school. Listen, say what you want about it, whatever. Told to follow my dreams. Here we are. I'm a firm believer that season 1s of like a lot of TV shows, especially like TV shows back in the day, what am I, like 80, like, you know, that came out from 2000 to like maybe like 2010, their first seasons are ass. Okay, Parks and Recreation, for example, is one of my favorite shows. Their first season I like voluntarily skip over if I'm doing a rewatch. And another like more recent show, Schitt's Creek, I love Schitt's Creek, but season 1 was so hard to get through, especially like knowing like where the characters end up. Like season 2 is so much better. And like I had a lot of people that are like, oh, I couldn't really get into Schitt's Creek because the characters were annoying. I'm like, listen, you have to excuse the pilot for episodes, and you have to excuse like the season 1, because a lot of shows are like still finding their footing. They're still trying to figure out like what they're gonna do, who their characters are gonna be, what they're gonna develop into. So you have to be a little bit like kinder. There are some shows that have had killer first seasons. Abbott Elementary is one of them, and that just you know, some shows knock it out the park. However, Degrassi The Next Generation season 1 did not knock it out the park. Degrassi season 1 is rough to get through. It is so boring. Like, I'm sorry, but it is. It's just, okay. Not to, like, have a little shameless plug, but I have a podcast with my friend, and we also talk about Degrassi, but we talk about every single episode. So if you want to check that out, Degrassified at Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But I remember when we were recording the first season, we were just like, God, this is like soul sucking. We are so bored. There is no interesting plots, no interesting like character developments. It's just boring, boring, boring. That doesn't mean that season 1 is awful. That just means that they were a revival. They were trying to figure out what they could do to like live up to the previous Degrassi show, and they were trying to figure it out. So according to Degrassi Wiki, the first season garnered, I'm so bad with numbers, 365,000 Canadian viewers, and the company website was getting 28 million hits per month. I don't really know what that means. Like, I didn't know they had a website back then, but 28 million hits per month is like actually insane. That's a lot of numbers. So that's insane for a season that's kind of ass. Sorry to say it, but Degrassi gets way better in the later seasons. Of course, like, when a show goes on for too long, it kind of like falters a little bit, but I still do think that the later plot lines and later seasons are still really good, but we'll get to that when we'll get to that. So for the structure of this video, I think the easiest way to talk about season 1 of Degrassi is to talk about all the characters and then talk about like all the plot lines that all the characters had, but I'm going to be talking about the characters that like from how they like most disrespected to the least disrespected in terms of like plot lines, what they gave people, this, that, and the fourth. So yeah, and if you wanted to hear more in depth about things, then go to Degrassified on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Okay, so we're gonna start with Terry. Terry is the one character they constantly disrespect on the show, so much so that they put her in a freaking coma in season 3 and they just write off her character. We'll get to that when we get to season 3 if you haven't seen Degrassi yet. Terry is in the 8th grade when we first meet her, and the only thing we know about her is that she is Ashley's best friend, even though Ashley is constantly disrespecting her, which is still true later in like season 2. Terry's only plotline that they give her is in regards to her weight. She thinks that she's fat and calls herself a cow in front of her dad. She's nervous to go to a school dance because Spinner, her crush, wants to go with her, and they have like unspoken crushes on each other, but she's nervous and she's scared because she thinks that since she is bigger than some of the other girls at her school, that Spinner doesn't want to go with her, and you know, it's a whole thing. Paige is jealous of Terry because Paige likes Spinner, but Spinner is paying attention to Terry instead of Paige. So Paige convinces Terry to get drunk and go to the school drunk in order to like instill some like false confidence in her, and it's a whole thing, and eventually backfires back on Terry because Spinner, like, she made a fool out of herself in front of Spinner, and Spinner like ends up on a date with Paige or something. I'm not really sure. Listen, I'm gonna read from here because I don't wanna, and I'm gonna hold my mic. But here we go. Listen, I see where they were trying to go with here, but I wish they had better executed it and really pushed that she shouldn't have been drinking because she's underage or gotten into bigger repercussions at school because she was drunk. To truly show teenagers the consequences of drinking and showing up school drunk. The only consequence that they gave her was that she didn't get the guy at the end, which is like such a stupid consequence. Like, if you're trying to tell teens, do not drink and do not show up to your school drunk. There are so many worse things that could have happened to her than her crush not wanting to date her anymore because she made a fool of herself. Then like she could have gotten into like serious trouble, and I wish Degrassi showed that instead of just being like, oh, if you drink then your crush might not like you back. What the fuck? I mean, they're constantly disrespecting this character anyways, but it really doesn't matter. They should have at least given her like a little bit of something. Terry is semi half involved with a plotline of her and Paige thinking Ashley's song is ass and wanting to pump up the band, but I'll save that for Paige. I think I put it in Paige's thing instead of Ashley's. And at one episode, Terry's given a business card by Toby's mom, who's a casting agent, and she's like, I like your look, like give us a call if you're interested in acting. And that's it. She is constantly disrespected on this show. Gets no major plot lines ever, really. Even in the second season, she doesn't really get any plot lines. And the plot line that she does get in the second season is once again about her weight. So it's just like, listen, if you have a character or you have a young child actor who is a little bit bigger than the other ones, and is probably already insecure about how she is and compared to like the other people that she's seen around her, don't further make her insecure by only giving her storylines that is about her weight. That's actually disrespectful, but we won't get into that. Let's talk about Manny. Manny is my favorite character on Degrassi, which is insane to think that, because if you see her in this first season, she is disrespected in terms of like what this little girl Cassie Steele at the time could do for acting, and they just don't give it to her until like season 3. Season 3 is when Manny starts to pick up, but season 3 Manny is if you know, she's a wreck. She is all over the place. But even with the one plot line that they gave this girl in season 1, like she ate it up. The only major plotline she gets is she beefs with Emma because not Paige, wrong girl. Manny wants to join the spirit squad that Paige runs, and Emma is getting upset because Manny is spending more time with Paige. That's literally the only plotline she gets. The only other time you see Manny is when she's like an attachment to Emma's storylines. That's it. Okay, I know y'all saw that light flicker. We're not going to talk about that. Okay, we're going to go light off so I'm not wasting light or something. I don't know. The problems with this storyline is that we constantly see Emma like disrespecting Manny as a friend and honestly being a horrible friend to Manny until like maybe season 5 is when she becomes a good friend to Manny. And it's just insane that this Manny plotline also like furthers Emma's like development or plot lines, because I wish this was just like a Manny situation and not also involve Emma in it. But of course, since Emma's our main character, they also had to involve Emma in it. But I love Manny. I can't really talk much about her this season because it's all this poor girl gets. Emma getting mad at her for wanting to do some cheerleading, and Emma writing a power piece because that's all she knows how to do. Manny is also there for like all of Emma's plots, which I've already mentioned. But those are more like Emma's storylines than Manny's. So once I get to Emma, then we'll talk about that. But I don't really mention Manny once I get to Emma's storylines. I will say though, shout out to Manny frantically panicking when Emma gets her period for the first time. It's genuinely funny. I genuinely laughed. Liberty. So, I wrote here in capital letters, the way Liberty got more plot lines than Manny is wild. I like Liberty, and early Liberty is actually my favorite version of Liberty after she gets pregnant. Her character is ruined for me. She just becomes like such a total bitch, and not in a good way. It's like really like frustrating and like irks my soul to watch her. I'm just saying that like after you get pregnant, you're ruined as a person, but the writing for her got so shitty after she got pregnant. Early season Liberties, however, is fantastic. I like her more than Manny only because they actually gave her more to do. They have her running for secretary and standing up to Ashley because Ashley always steals her jokes and lines when they go on air for Degrassi TV. Although Ashley humiliated her, they have Ashley help her out. So she has like her own little B plot there, and it's like a little moment of growth for both of them. The major thing with Liberty, the major plotline thing that kind of like carries out all the way up until season 4 is that she has a huge crush on JT. Oh god, this episode was so chaotic. JT pretends to be gay in order to get her off his back, and Liberty is supportive of it. She really said gay rights, until JT points out that he was faking and that she was hurt. The problem with this storyline was, like, all of it. Don't pretend that you're gay if you don't want someone to like you, or if you're trying to get, like, someone that does like you off your back, because this just showed that, like, that might not happen, and they might just support you and be like, oh my gosh, you should come out to everyone else, because that's what Liberty did. Just tell the person you don't like them. Like, I don't, like, if that was the moral of the story, they also approached that horribly, because they were like, pretend to be gay first, and then tell them you don't like them. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Just tell the person you don't like them. If you've seen Degrassi, though, it's funny because these two do end up in a relationship later in season 4, and it's just funny that, like, we see, like, JT, like, basically hating her before they actually get into a relationship with each other. The next major Liberty plotline we get is because of Emma. She's an instigator. Her and her annoying ways. She sees Mr. Armstrong helping Liberty out because she has I cannot say this word. Oh my god. Dyscalculia. I got it. We find that out later in the episode, but we don't know why. So Mr. Armstrong, like, innocently puts, like, his arm, like, on Liberty, or, like, around Liberty, like, comforting her when they're, like, doing some math problems. Emma sees this and thinks, oh my god, they're in a relationship. So she's talking mad loud to Manny in the hallway, and Terry overhears her, and Terry is the one that spreads it around the school. And Emma, later, when she confronts Terry about it, Terry was like, you're the one that was talking mad loud about it to Manny. Maybe you should, like, know what you're talking about, this, that, and the fourth. And Emma was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? And Liberty literally told her that you're an awful friend, because she is. She could have just, like, if you were really concerned that there was something going on, you wouldn't talk shit about it. You would just go up to Liberty and be like, hey, is there something going on? Like, is he manipulating you? This, that, and the fourth. And Liberty didn't even have to, like, if she didn't want to, she didn't have to be like, no, I have dyscalculia, like, that's what's happening. She could have just been like, oh, he's just helping me. But Emma being Emma probably wouldn't have believed that anyways. But whatever. That's the only storyline Liberty gets, and it's like another storyline that Emma is also majorly involved in. It's very annoying. The next character I'm going to talk about is Paige. Paige. I love Paige as a character, but first season Paige is awful. She is such a bitch. She manipulates Terry, she's rude to Ashley, and she's just overall a bad person. I understand Ashley chewing her out at the season finale, even though she was under the influence of drugs, but So I'm going to talk about the band storyline now with Paige, because Ashley gets more storylines than Paige does, so I'll just put it with Paige. Paige doesn't have that many storylines either this season, which is actually wild considering, like, how she's such a major force in the show. But the only storyline we get is that she wants to join Ashley and Terry's, like, 2-woman band show that they have going on. And she has Terry gaslight. I literally wrote that. She has Terry gaslight Ashley with some tarot cards that Paige should be let into the band. Paige is also telling Terry that Ashley's song is boring as hell, but she didn't lie. It is so freaking slow. It is so annoying. If you hear it, oh dear God. And Paige and Terry want to, like, spice it up a little bit, you know, make it a little bit more interesting. Ashley is mad about that, and she's just like, I can't believe you guys would do that to my song. Whatever. Terry and Paige performed the more upbeat version of the song, and Ashley realized that she was in the wrong and she shouldn't be such, like, a tyrant when it comes to this kind of stuff. And they're all friends at the end. That's it. Paige's evolution truly only goes up from here, except when she dates a teacher in season 4. I don't know what happened in season 4 with these writers, but they were kind of just like, let's get crazy, let's get wild. Like the Jersey Shore theme song, essentially. But the Degrassi writers gradually moving away from Paige being the meanest bitch in school to being someone who is insecure and has moments of insecurity is a plus. I like that. We see that she has moments of being nice. She gives some nice words to Emma after she gets her first period, which I'll talk about when I get to Emma's character. And she tries to give Ashley, like, a good reason on her dad and her mom, like, reconnecting. I'll get to that when we get to the Ashley plot. Jimmy. Everyone's favorite boy. Drake. I mean Jimmy. I also want to clarify here. Every time I wrote Jimmy, I would, like, instead write Drake, and I did that on purpose, so I'm just saying before y'all in the comments go, you keep saying Drake, his name is Jimmy, ha ha ha. I did that on purpose. Drake, I mean Jimmy, is kind of thrown on the bus this season. The only thing he has to his character is that he's Ashley's boyfriend, Sprinter's best friend, he's clingy to Ashley, and that he hates Sean. Oh, and that he plays basketball. One major storyline that they give him is in combination with Ashley is the fact that they've been dating for 8 months and they still haven't had sex. They both come to the conclusion that they don't want to do the devil's tango, so they don't. That one's a good story. I don't have any problems with that moral. That just shows that, hold on, I worded it better here than I'm going to word it right now. It's a great moral for kids who might be pressured to have sex from their peers. At the end of the day, it's only between you and the person you plan to have sex with, which is true. Was it a little bit uncomfortable for me to talk about like 12, 13-year-olds talking about sex? Yes. However, that is still like a good lesson for like adults to learn today. Like, if people are pressuring you to have sex, don't have sex. That should not be the reason why you have sex. I'm just saying, okay? The reason you are having sex is because you and the person you're having sex with are comfortable with that idea, and you both agree to it. You guys shouldn't let outside forces tell you whether or not it should happen. So it's a good thing they did it. I really like that one. Another thing with Drake is that he hates Sean Cameron. I don't know why. They never really get into it. I'm like genuinely not so sure why, but they just hate each other, and I don't know why. So how am I supposed to tell you guys why they hate each other? They just do. Another plotline that they give Drake is that he is clingy as hell with Ashley. When you find out why, though, it's sad. You just find out, like, his parents aren't really around as much as, like, Ashley's parents are. So he's always, like, clinging on to Ashley because it's, like, the one thing that he has. And Ashley, this episode's, like, trying to break up with him because he's being mad clingy. But then she feels bad for him and they don't break up. But that one's also, like, kind of sad because it's, like, damn. He's being clingy because he has, like, no one to go to at home. That's sad. The other plotline they gave him is that he takes drugs at some point. He takes Adderall so he could, like, be good at basketball. And he ends up, like, not being on the basketball team because of that. So that was good karma on that one. They had a good moral of that one. They were saying, don't take drugs, or you, like, this is what happens when you take drugs. Drake is also best friends with Spinner, but I'll get into that when we get into Spinner. You like that transition? A segue? No? Okay. I like Spinner a lot as a character, which is wild because this first season, I do not like Spinner at all. I think I like later Spinner, like maybe late season 5 until like the end of his run. I like Spinner. Spinner and Jimmy are polar opposites as characters when it comes to their values and just their overall character. And it's honestly shocking that they stay friends for as long as they did before the whole season 4 events happened. Those season 4 events is going to be like haunting these videos until it actually happens and I talk about it. So just be prepared. Yay! Spinner is your resident troublemaker. He puts earwigs in the school lunch and has to work in the cafeteria after he dumps a whole container of the insects, and it just like they have to get an exterminator. He bullies Mrs. Kwan to the point that she is breaking down crying in front of him, and he is laughing about it 5 feet away. Mrs. Kwan and Spinner kind of resolve their issues when he doesn't want to take an English test, and Mrs. Kwan tries to let him know that he's smarter than he thinks he is. Spinner this season, however, is still funny. Even though he's an awful human being, there's this one scene where you see him running in the background because he's trying to like sweat up a fever so he doesn't have to take his English test. That scene was funny. He also has a crush on Terry, which is literally never mentioned again after that one episode that they gave him with, you know, the whole dance situation. So that's the only plotline they really gave Spinner, that he's just annoying as hell. You can see I really genuinely don't know how him and Jimmy are friends, and when they stop being friends, it like makes perfect sense because they are just polar opposites with each other. And I'll get into this when we get into like season 3 and a situation that happens with that, but they just like I just don't get it. It's like keeping someone along because you've known them for so long. If your friends are shitty people, do not be friends with them, okay? If you've talked to them about it and they don't change their behavior either, do not be friends with them. JT. Let's get into JT now. JT is a resident class clown trying to avoid liberty, pretending to be a gay little 7th grader we all know and may or may not love. I'm indifferent with JT's character. I don't really have any opinions about him, ever. I don't like hate or like the character. Sometimes he's a little bit too pervy and it's really uncomfortable for me. So, yeah. Honestly, off the top of my head, I can think of any JT censor plots that I haven't already talked about. Oh yeah, he watches porn with Toby one day, and Toby's parents catch them in the act. Once again, I don't need to see that on my screen, but obviously, if I was a teenager when the show aired, then I would feel the embarrassment as a teen and not as an adult watching the show. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm so glad they move away from JT being a pervy character when he gets a little bit older, because it's unbearable to watch this 12-year-old little boy getting porn websites from his cousin. once again, I don't really need to see that. The other stupid plotline they give him is that him, Liberty, Toby, and Spinner are teaming up to get $1 million from a Pringles contest. JT learns that he was carrying the wrong face card the entire time for the Pringles can, and then he's stuffed in a locker by Spinner. Memorable stuff. He also takes ecstasy with Toby in the season finale when Sean actually gave him a vitamin pill. And I'll get into that when I get into Sean Cameron, which is right now, because Sean doesn't have a lot of storylines either. I actually forgot about his character as well. I was like, let me talk about Sean right now before I forget. There isn't much to him. He's the mysterious bad boy who good girl Emma has her eye on. Mostly all of Sean's plotline center around Emma. He signs her petition to get tampons in the girls' bathroom. He dances with her on one of the many dances that Degrassi has. Little tidbit here. My school never had as many dances as Degrassi has, and I'm just thinking, like, were we poor or are they rich? But they talk about budget cuts in that show, so I don't think that they're rich. I don't understand. They have like a dance every 5 to 8 episodes. We had a dance every year. It was actually kind of depressing. Anyways. Remember how I said Drake and Sean don't like each other? That comes together in an episode where they get into a physical altercation and Sean pushes Emma. Yikes. Sean is feeling an immense amount of stress as the exam season is here, and he is convincing himself that he's going to fail. He checks it out on Emma and realizes his mistake way too late. You don't push your girlfriend. The only thing that he gets is in the season finale, he and Ashley are making out when Ashley is high on ecstasy. Okay, let's get to Toby. For Toby to be such an irrelevant character in the later seasons, it's fascinating the amount of plotlines he got in this season and how much I actually like Toby's character, but just in season 1. In season 2 and season 3, he's kind of a creep and I cannot stand a little boy. But the first one is that him and Ashley are step-siblings, so they're trying to deal with being step-siblings. Toby gets JT to run against Ashley for president, and after JT delivers a hilarious monologue on how he'll be a real politician by taking bribes and not doing anything, Ashley begs Toby to quit it. They eventually make up, and we hear mentions that they're in family therapy. Another quick note, I like how they mentioned that the family's in therapy without making it such a big deal, because therapy should be normalized. I like that they talk about that without being without a character making fun of them for the fact that they're in family therapy. I think everyone should get therapy. Everyone. I don't care if you think you're the most sane person in the world, you should get therapy. Another problem with Toby is that his birth parents both come on Parents' Day and fight in front of him. Toby is stressed out because he's the kid in this whole situation, and the parents are forgetting that by fighting around him all the time. He's like, the reason that I haven't done my homework and my grades are slipping up is because y'all two are constantly fighting in front of me, and you can't even see that. So he's pretty mature, and he lets them know that they need to stop fighting around him. It's messing him up. And I'm not a child of divorce, but I'm sure that happens a lot with children of divorce. Oh my god, I forgot about this. Then we get Toby has such a weird, creepy crush on Emma. And Emma does not like Toby, and it's pretty well known by everyone except for him. He cannot catch a hint for his life. And even when Emma is official with Sean, he still doesn't get it. Toby does have a nice moment with Emma when he dances with her, this showcase that they have, even though it's an embarrassing ass dance, and he definitely made a fool of himself more than he already was. So yeah, our second to last character we're talking about is Ashley, and I wrote, it's genuinely upsetting that Ashley is the second to last character that I'm going to talk about in terms of who I felt we saw the most of, or who I felt had a lot more storylines, because Ashley is one of the most boringest characters in this show. I think she gets a little bit better when she's not boring. No, I think she gets a little bit better when it's later seasons her, but she still doesn't have I don't know, she's just missing something. She's missing a spark. Okay, this microphone shadow looks actually ridiculous on me. But she's just missing a spark or something. I'm not really sure what it is. But yeah, Ashley's a boring character. I actually wrote that when she takes ecstasy in the season finale, that it's actually exciting for me to watch what she does, which is insane to think, because I'm she literally took drugs and this is the most exciting she's been. Yikers. That should not be what you get from this, from what I just said. Do not take drugs to be more exciting. You could be more exciting on your own, but I'm just saying that that character was so boring. However, I do think they had a point with it, because in the season finale, Mrs. Kwan is giving superlatives to all of her classmates, and she gives Ashley student of the year or something, best, something like that. And Ashley admits it herself. She's oh, such a boring, like such a boring thing that I could get. And it's like, well, yeah, girl, like you're kind of boring, but whatever, she'll be fine. So I think if that was their goal all along, then that's a good thing. But she still kind of seems to be a boring character in the later seasons. I already talked about Ashley's storylines with the other characters that she was involved in. Like I had it with Toby, I had it with Paige and Terry, I've had it with Jimmy. So there isn't really much else I can say about her. But it's wild that she dipped her toes in like all of the other characters and their storylines, except for like maybe Emma and Manny. The only thing I didn't talk about is the fact that she thinks her mom and dad are gonna get back together because they're getting along after their divorce, but she doesn't realize that her father is actually gay until he comes out to her. And thankfully they don't make her homophobic, but they do make her like, you left me because you're gay. Like if that makes sense, then like not like the fact that like, oh, you're gay, like, you know, she was just more upset on the fact that he was like kind of cheating on her mom with his current boyfriend. But at the same time, like he's probably like a 40-year-old man trying to figure himself out. I'm not saying cheat on your spouses, I am not saying that at all. However, if you are confused by sexuality, maybe discuss it with your spouses, like discuss it with your partner so like no one gets hurt. Whatever. I have nothing else to say about this girl other than her thin ass eyebrows. Only that the fact that there is one more character that is more annoying than her, which is Emma, our main character of the show. Emma the Menace, as we call her over our podcast. Emma is our main character for like the first 8 seasons of the show. Even though Degrassi is like an ensemble show with the casts and like who they focus on the storylines, they proportionately, if you're the main character, they will give you more storylines because we see that with Emma. And in the later seasons when Emma's not there anymore, if you know the characters of Degrassi, then I think it becomes Holly J. And then I think it's Claire, because dear God, we saw so much of Claire. And then I think it's Maya towards like season 14 / the next class. Oh God, sorry, I'm still thinking about Claire right now. Okay, anyways. Emma is raised by single mom Christine, which could explain why she is so ready to talk about every single little problem that she has, because Christine, in action, I've seen her. She also speaks her mind and talks about what she wants to. But it's just like, damn. Let me catch a break. I don't need to hear this girl all the time. In the season premiere, Emma, this isn't funny, Emma is a victim of pedophilia, but she is luckily able to get out before anything truly bad happens to her. So she has an online boyfriend named Jordan, and Jordan one day is like, hey, I'm gonna be in your area, we should meet up. She goes to the hotel that Jordan said he was staying at, and Jordan's teacher comes by and he says, oh, Jordan's upstairs with the rest of the guys, do you want to come upstairs? She goes upstairs. She later realizes that the teacher is Jordan and he's been like grooming her online, you know, but she, like, luckily she's able to get out before anything bad happens. But one thing about Degrassi is that that's the season premiere, and the next episode is like Toby and Ashley fighting because they're step siblings, and it's like Degrassi does not care what happened like the previous episode unless it's like a part 1, part 2-ter. They will just throw you in for a loop, and they'll be like, just like you should have expected that. You should have expected that this was going to be chaos. Like, come on. We're going to talk about pedophilia in one episode, and the next episode we're going to talk about siblings fighting. Okay. Do what you feel like, I think. The other shit that this bitch gets into, I called her a bitch. I'm so sorry. Miriam McDonald, the actress that plays Emma, I have nothing against you. I have everything against the character you play, but that just shows that you're a good actress if you made her so annoying. Anyways. Other shit that this bitch gets into, even though I mentioned a lot of things with the other characters, I made a bullet list for her. She's the only one that I made a bullet list for, and there's 7 bullets on this bullet list, which just says something. The other ones, only, like, Terry got like a couple sentences. Like, ridiculous. Okay, whatever. Emmy? Who is Emmy? Emma and Manny are getting bullied by Spinner and Jimmy for all of 2 minutes in the 3rd episode. Emma's going to the dance with herself and breaking up a fight between Sean and Jimmy and dancing with Sean. She's annoyed at the... Let me give you context for this one. So Degrassi shows this like segment called News About Kids that she's like forced to watch in class because they kind of endorse this school, or like them showing the videos they like money for and they can pay for computers and stuff. And she's mad because she's like, this is propaganda. I don't need to be seeing this at my school. This and the Forbes. So she writes an opinion piece about it. And Tracker, Sean's brother, talks shit to her. He's like, girl, the reason that like my brother can do his homework here at school is because this News About Kids segment, because we don't have a computer at home. So of course, Emma being Emma, she's one-minded as hell. She didn't even think about other people. She was only thinking about herself in the segment. Whatever. She gets her period, but let me get into this one a little bit more since it has a good moral lesson, which is like, don't be ashamed that you're having your period. And she gets her period, like, she's like 12 years old, and she's like upset. She like doesn't think that she's a kid anymore. And this is when Paige like tells her, like, you're still like a kid. You can still do kid things if you want to. Like, you're fine. Like, just because you're biologically a woman now, like, doesn't mean that you have to like now do womanly things, you know? So I like that one. She also stands up for herself in class because she accidentally bleeds on one of her new skirts, so she has to wear like an oversized pair of gym shorts. And JT, being JT, is making fun of her. And Emma's like, yeah, you want to know what happened? It's because I got my period. And she says that, and the boys are like, oh my god. Sean is like, he's like, not like rooting for her, but he's like kind of amazed that she did that, while JT and Toby are like embarrassed that it happened. But that was like the one time that I liked Emma, when she gave her whole little monologue. She's like, yeah, period. Ever heard of one? This is a quick little side note. I was reading the Degrassi trivia for this episode, and apparently Manny mentions that she was born in the Philippines. I know that her character is like canonically Filipino, but I didn't know that she was born in the Philippines. I must have missed that. Whatever. Back to Emma. She spreads the rumor that Mr. Armstrong and Liberty have an inappropriate relationship. She goes on an official date with Sean, and the whole episode is a disaster. She gets shitted on by a bird. She has Sean dig through the trash because she thinks she loses her wallet, even though she realizes that it was like in her pocket the entire time. She's eating a burger, and Sean is talking about this disgusting story about like how they kill cows, and she doesn't want to eat her burger anymore. And after all that, she just runs away. Like, it's so funny. But Sean like still likes her. He still wants to go on a date with her. They take an embarrassing picture like the beginning of the episode, and he's like, can I keep this? I'm like, yeah, whatever. I also just want to say that the last points that I made, Emma getting her period, Emma spreading the rumor about Liberty, Mr. Armstrong, and Emma going on a date with Sean, happened in 3 consecutive episodes. That means in 3 consecutive episodes she was the A plot. 3 consecutive episodes. Oh my god. And then in the next episode, she's still in the plot A, when she's mad at Manny for hanging out with Paige and calling Manny a fake woman or something for wanting to wear a skirt and do some cheerleading. I'm sorry, she's actually so annoying. I know she's the main character, so obviously a lot of plots and episodes are going to revolve around her, but they should have made her like a little bit more likable. But that's another thing that I like about Degrassi. The kids are real kids. The kids have flaws, they have bad fashion sense, they make poor character decisions and judgments, and they're all struggling to fit in or trying too hard to stand out. They're desperate for attention, and they are exactly how real life teenagers are. All characters should have flaws, no matter like what media you're consuming. You should be able to pick out like one thing that the character is bad at, or like the character is annoyed by, this, that, and the fourth. They're obviously going to have flaws, and since they're kids, they're obviously going to have a lot more flaws because they're kids. And I said, it's saying something about me, to me, that I like later seasons Emma and later seasons Spinners, is because, yeah, they learn from their mistakes and they realize, like, what went wrong and, like, how they were flawed back then and how they're better now. That's why I like them in later seasons. But kids are kids. They're going to be annoying, so just deal with it, you know? To bring Parks and Rec back in it, Leslie Knope is a great friend and a great worker. However, she is overbearing and sometimes expects too much out of people. I love her character, but I also recognize that she's a little crazy. I'm always saying that I hate teenagers these days despite only being 20 years old, but when I was 13, I know I was annoying as hell. So it makes sense that I find like teenagers now annoying because I was also annoying. And I know like 20-year-olds, when they saw me when I was 13, they found me annoying as well. So I had a unicorn case for my iPod Touch. I know I was insufferable, so it only makes sense that I find these kids insufferable as well, okay? As I get into the later seasons, when we get into a million different characters, I'm going to need when we get into later seasons of Degrassi and we get like way more characters, I'm gonna need a better format when it comes to like talking about all the characters or like recapping the season in general, because I only talked about how many characters was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 characters, which is like not that many, but I wrote 9 pages about them. So imagine when we get to like season like 10, when not only did like double the amount of episodes that they release, but it's also just like there's so many. I didn't even bother talking about the adults. I didn't really have much to say about the adults. I don't really care. They didn't really have a lot of big storylines. When they get bigger storylines, then I'll talk about them. The only one is just like Archie's there. He's a teacher, and Christine is there, and Joy Jeremiah is there, and Caitlin Ryan's there. Like, that's really it. So I don't really have much to say about them. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and expect a season 2 recap soon, hopefully. And I hope you enjoyed this one once again, and I hope you'll enjoy the future one. And, you know, like and subscribe if you want. I'll probably be posting a lot more Degrassi content, but if you want more Degrassi content, listen to the podcast Degrassified with me and my friend. It's a great time over there. And I also make a lot of Degrassi related TikToks at Degrassified_podcast on TikTok. So follow that. Thank you, everyone.